So in episode 5, Hanna has made it to England and is staying at Sophie's place, but her parents don't know it, because she's sleeping in the van in the garage, and every once in a while Sophie will bring her food, but in reality she really thinks that she should call her dad, because it's been a week since she's arrived, and she's kind of concerned for her. But Hanna is completely against that, and makes Sophie swear that she won't tell anybody that she's there. That night Sophie was planning on going to a party at her friend Dan's place, but she's forced to watch her brother. And the whole reason she wants to go to this party is to hook up with this guy named Anton who's back in town. So she ends up risking it, sneaking out, leaving her brother at home alone, and taking Sophie with her to this party, thinking all the while that she can make it back before her parents do. And at the party, Hanna's having a little bit of sensory overload, so she starts drinking to numb that feeling. And while searching around the house, she opens up one door and finds Sophie's friend Dan making out with another guy. She then goes downstairs and starts dancing and having a good time until she catches the eye of somebody. And that person just happens to be Anton, the guy that Sophie was trying to hook up with. But Anton is transfixed with Hanna and invites both Hanna and Sophie to a movie night at his place the next night. The issue is, Sophie's parents came home early and they found her brother there sitting home alone. And they are pissed. So Sophie and a very drunk Hanna head back to their place. And that night as Hanna is sleeping in the van, Sophie's dad ends up opening it up, sleeping in it, crying because his marriage is crumbling apart. Luckily though, he doesn't catch Hanna. The next morning, Hanna tells Sophie about what happened the previous night with her dad, and Sophie tells Hanna that she's been grounded for leaving her brother there for a month. And the reason that they grounded her wasn't just for leaving her brother there, but also because there were a bunch of empty beer bottles in the conversion van. And Hanna feels really bad about getting Sophie in trouble, but Sophie says don't worry about it, they're just being ridiculous. The problem is she now can't go to Anton's movie night. And Anton has texted Sophie giving her his address, which is right around the corner. But just because Sophie doesn't go, doesn't mean Hanna has to stay behind too, and she ends up going to the party. And initially she rings the doorbell but starts to walk away until Anton sees her and invites her back in. And as the group is watching the movie, Anton asks Hanna if she likes it, and she really doesn't. She then asks Anton, can you get me another beer? But then she just stands up, blocking the TV from everybody else, and is just staring at the movie. And the movie is a zombie movie, and she's watching all these people get killed in a gory fashion. But once again, the issue is she's blocking the TV and everybody's telling her to move. And one guy throws popcorn at her, and when she turns around, she just kicks him right in the face, causing a scene. She runs out, Anton's right behind her, saying that it's okay, come back, what happened? But either way, Hanna goes back to Sophie's. And Dan, Sophie's friend, who was at the party, wants to know what's up with that girl and goes over to Sophie's and asks about her. And she says, she ran away from home and I'm just trying to help her out because her situation at home was really messed up. The next day, Sophie has a massive blow up with her parents about being grounded. And she tells her parents, why don't you two just get divorced? Because everybody that I know whose parents got divorced, their parents were a lot happier afterwards. And her dad, who is so stressed out, shoots back, well, maybe if you just obeyed us for 5 minutes, we wouldn't fight so much, putting all the blame on Sophie, and it makes Sophie feel like a piece of shit. And at this point, Sophie just wants to get out of there. But after the incident at the party the previous night, Hanna also wants to get out of there, and she's packing up things to go until all of a sudden the garage door opens up, and it's Sophie and Dan saying, come on, let's go, we're going somewhere. Hanna says, where are we going? She says, well, where do you want to go? And Hanna says, the forest. All right, we're going to the forest. And their group heads off camping. But not before they make a pit stop by picking up Anton. The first thing he says to Hanna is, last night wasn't your fault. And this is the first time that Sophie is finding out that Hanna actually went to the party, although it doesn't seem like she's really annoyed by it at all. And on the way to the forest at one point, it's just Hanna and Sophie in the back, and Sophie asks, did you talk to Anton last night? And Hanna lies to her saying, yeah, he was asking about you, and all of a sudden Sophie's in the best mood. So Hanna, Anton, Sophie, and Dan head out to the forest, they get drunk, they smoke weed, and eventually Sophie and Dan head back to the van to grab something, but they end up passing out, and now it's just Anton and Hanna sitting there. And they end up making out, which leads to clothes coming off. And it leads to Hanna losing her virginity in the forest. And at this point, we kind of know that Hannah's very different with her DNA. But both times she's gotten a chance to hook up with a boy, she's like raring to go. I mean, her hormones are like through the roof. Now, while things are going great for Sophie in England, things are not going great for Marissa Wiegler in Germany. On top of not being able to find Eric Heller, she's brought to a meeting with Jerome Sawyer, and Sawyer tells her, you're going to take a leave of absence, and you're going to get a psych evaluation to deal with the traumatic experience of getting kidnapped by Eric Heller. And they both know that that's a joke. She doesn't want to do it at all and tells him that I'm the only person that can get you Eric Heller and get you Hanna. And Sawyer lets her know, yeah, we used to feel that way, but not anymore. And Marissa, who at this point is pretty pissed off, says, that's fine, try to find her without me, but if you cook up this story that I'm crazy, I'm going to come after you. And it's not that far-fetched of a story, because after she was supposed to close down the Utrecht facility in Romania, her file clearly says she had psychological issues, and it's understandable because she was forced to kill a bunch of babies. So whether she likes it or not, she's going to have to go to therapy. And the therapist starts asking her questions like a typical therapist would, and she says, I'm going to tell you what I want. I want to be put back on the job where I'm the best person to obtain the agency's goals. And the therapist plays dumb, but Marissa says, there was a reason I was sent to you. Hanna should have been at the airport, but she wasn't, and there's a reason for that, and I can find that reason. So tell Sawyer to give me the support that I need, and I will find them. But the therapist just continues on with a normal therapy session. And Jerome Sawyer is already on to Eric Heller, because with the help of Carl Meisner, they've been able to positively ID Dieter on the security cam footage. But as Meisner is leaving, he asks, hey, what's up with that company Utrecht you mentioned? There's no file on them whatsoever. And Sawyer kind of just dismisses him, saying, don't ask questions that could cost you a career. Now with this leave of absence, Marissa heads back to France, where her boyfriend is happy to see her, but her boyfriend's child is not. And when she goes to pick him up from school, he basically lashes out at her, saying, you're not my mom. And even though in therapy she says she's not bothered by anything that she did, she is haunted by the sound of babies crying. Now, just because she's on a leave of absence doesn't mean she's not done tracking down Hanna or Eric. She hops on the phone with Meisner, but he's being sent back to Langley by Sawyer. And she's trying to get the full details from Meisner about what happened on that airstrip and why Hanna was apparently leaving Eric, because it's very weird behavior. And all the while, she's on Sophie's Instagram looking at photos, trying to track her down. And right before she hangs up with Meisner, Meisner asks her about Utrecht, but as soon as that conversation pops up, she hangs up the phone because she's found a picture that clearly shows Hanna at a party in England, and now she has her lead. And while Marissa knows where Hanna is, Jerome has been able to locate Eric. And Eric was in really bad shape after getting shot, basically being held together by a doctor who kept telling them you need to take him to a hospital. But they were completely against doing that. And one day while Eric and Elsa are outside, Elsa is suddenly shot and Eric flees. And it doesn't take long for Eric to be completely surrounded, and both Jerome and Dieter pop up. And the reason that Dieter sold him out was because Jerome Sawyer showed up at his work asking about where Eric Heller was, but he played dumb, saying, I haven't seen him in years. But then when Dieter went home, there's Sawyer with his kids. And Sawyer had a sharpshooter with a scope pointed at his children. And when he threatened his children, Dieter didn't really have a choice but to rat Eric out. Thank you for watching this recap. If you do not see the next one up in the corner right there on the end screen, don't worry, it'll be up shortly. Please consider following the channel. That'd be cool. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you don't, there's a thumbs down button for a reason.